Anyone who's into watches dreams of owning a Patek Philippe, but it's really hard to actually buy one. I've bought over 100 Pateks and sold them, from both retail and in the grey market. So today, I'm going to tell you how you can buy a Patek Philippe at retail or in the grey market. Why does everyone want a Patek Philippe? It's pretty simple. They've got excellent craftsmanship, and they kind of sit at the top of the holy trinity of fine watchmaking, alongside Audemars Piguet and Vacheron Constantin. Until very recently, you could walk into the boutique, even in 2012 or 2013, and buy a Patek Philippe Nautilus at retail. They couldn't sell them. They maybe even would discount them. But now, those days are gone, and it's nigh on impossible to buy one. What's really driven the popularity and the pricing of Patek Philippe is social media and celebrity. We see every day that a new celebrity, a basketballer, a footballer, whether it be LeBron James, Messi, Kevin O'Leary, one of these greats in the social media world is wearing a Patek Philippe, and that just drives everyone to want to go and buy one. But not all of these people are wearing your standard Calatrava. They're typically wearing a Nautilus, an Aquanaut, or something crazy or off catalog. The pricing is a simple issue of supply and demand. Only a certain number of pieces are made, and if the demand goes from this all the way up to here, well, the price has to go up as well. What really epitomizes this concept and the hype of Patek Philippe is when 170 pieces of the Nautilus with the Tiffany blue dial and the Tiffany co-stamp were sold. The first one auctioned off for almost 10 million Australian dollars, which is absolutely crazy. But that watch, which would have had a retail price of about 50k, sold for many multiples because it was just so desirable at the time. Since then, the market has actually cooled on them, and they're closer to around 1.5 to 2 million US dollars. So I'd hate to be the person taking that loss. Now, not every watch released by Patek Philippe or sold by them is created equal. I like to generalize them into three broad tiers: the below retail, the above retail, and what I like to call unobtainium. Firstly, you've got the pieces that sell below retail. Something like this, which I actually bought from the boutique, would sell for less on the open market, probably around $40,000, than the current retail, which is around $55,000. You could buy a complications model and even some of the grand comps. Other pieces that would fall into this would be the 24 range for the ladies, and typically is just none of the sports models. Next, we've got the above retail range. The above retail are things like Aquanauts, like this. This is an Aquanaut with a Tiffany stamp, so would have retailed for around 40,000 and now has a market of about 160,000, so 4 times retail. Other things within this category would be Nautiluses, so your steel, your white gold, your rose gold Nautiluses. Additionally, one of the other new releases, which is the Cubitus, does currently fall into this category. The last category is something that I like to call unobtainium. This is a very special category, and I think for most of us mere mortals, we can completely forget about it. This is for sheikhs, superstars, and billionaires. When you see Mark Wahlberg wearing a Grandmaster chime, or Anant Ambani rocking a full factory sapphire or emerald or ruby 5980 Nautilus, that is the kind of piece that maybe not every mere mortal can just achieve, and that's okay, because there's a lot of other Pateks which are great, which we can strive towards. Now, I often get asked, where do you actually buy a Patek Philippe? And there's two main channels of getting them. You can either go to the Patek Philippe boutique or to the grey market. In terms of looking at the retail journey and the Patek Philippe boutiques, those are places that you can go to and register your name on an expression of interest list to then one day hopefully purchase the Patek Philippe that you're after. The other way is the grey market, and that's what we do, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Now, you probably clicked on this video because you want to buy an Aquanaut or a Nautilus at retail. So if you walk into a boutique, they'll definitely take your name down, they'll file that away, and you'll probably never get a call back. As mentioned before, Patek has got above retail and below retail pieces. The way that each boutique operates is they get a certain allocation of pieces from the Patek Philippe HQ. Within that, they get a mix. Sometimes they'll get some hype pieces, they'll get a Nautilus, they'll get an Aquanaut, maybe even something from the unobtainium list, but they'll also get a bunch of other pieces that sell below retail. So they'll get some Calatravas, they might even get those grand comps that are $200,000 less on the grey market than they are at retail. And the only way for them to make money is to sell them all. As you can imagine, it's really easy to sell an Aquanaut or a Nautilus, and it's really hard to find someone who's going to stomach a $100,000 or a $200,000 loss on the timepiece. So what do? Even though officially they're not supposed to do this, sometimes they bundle pieces together. Or they do it unofficially in a way that if you buy a certain number of pieces that are under retail and you help out the boutique and you become a preferred client for them, then they will take care of you and give you pieces that do go above retail. Now, I'm sure there's stories out there where someone's walked into a boutique and they've bought an Aquanaut or a Nautilus as a first piece. For all of the clients that I've dealt with over those 100 Pateks that I've bought, that is not the case. You have to really invest time, money, and energy into this relationship to then see the fruits, which would be a sports Nautilus. There are a few more rules than that though, because as you can imagine, if you are going to make $100,000 on a Nautilus, a lot of people might take 2K loss here, 3K loss there, wherever, and just buy a few pieces and try to get up that ladder. But you have to keep these pieces, or at least sell them in a really discreet manner so that the boutique doesn't know. And that's where a lot of people come unstuck. When someone comes to us to sell either, a below retail, an above retail, or an unobtainable piece, we have to take very special care to protect that AD relationship because we know how much time and money goes into it. We're not going to sell that piece publicly in Australia. If someone's walked out the boutique, come across the road and sold it to us, we're going to typically try to sell that either to a private client who's never going to resell it, or shift that piece overseas. We also will not put that on our website for everyone to see. That way, the boutique will never know that this piece was ever sold. So what does a realistic journey look like to getting one of these pieces? Let's first talk about my retail journey. Before I was on camera and before I was a watch dealer, I had bought a couple of Patek Philippe pieces. It started with this, which was a Calatrava, the 6119G. This is a below retail piece, with the current retail being about $55,000 and the market being about $10,000 to $15,000 below that. I then bought something from the Complication series, which was the 5905R in blue. Beautiful piece, and that had a retail at the time of about $110,000. Despite buying two Patek Philippe, which are theoretically under retail, I still was not allocated a sports model. I would have probably had to buy either something in the Grand Complications or other complications which were further below retail before I was allocated an Aquanaut or a Nautilus. So you'd have to sink in north of 250,000, maybe even 300,000, and probably take a 50k loss on those pieces before you could even consider being allocated your first sports model. But unfortunately, as it goes with being a watch dealer now, even though I'm keeping these pieces for my personal collection and I've had them for a couple of years, I'm more than likely blacklisted from Patek. It looks really bad for the boutique. Sometimes they even get chastised by the upper management from Patek Philippe HQ. If they find out that boutiques are regularly selling to flippers, they can lose their Patek dealership license. So, the best way to actually get that Patek at retail is to buy something that goes under retail. They've got no reason not to sell that to you. If you then continue to build up that relationship with other loss-making pieces and develop enough of a relationship with them, you will eventually get that Aquanaut or Nautilus. But the question is, how long do you have to wait before you get allocated that sports piece? How much of a loss are you going to take? For many people, that wait is simply not worth it. Or they just don't have the finances to back up buying $500,000 plus of watches, holding them in the hopes of getting that one sports Patek. What else can you do if you are not willing to do that, or if you're impatient, or just like anyone reasonable thinks that you've worked really hard, you can afford the piece and you should be able to get it and not have to jump through all of these hoops just to buy a simple timepiece. So grey market dealers like myself will hold and stock certain pieces. Some of these will be above retail, like the sports models and the hype pieces, and you might have to pay a 30, 40, 50, even depending on what the piece is, $100,000 premium to retail, but you can get that piece immediately. There's no waiting, you don't have to stress about the disposal, you can just wear it and enjoy it and celebrate the hard work that you've put in to be able to achieve this piece. On the contrary, there are certain pieces that sell below retail. Patek has been raising their retail prices higher and higher and higher to the point where so much of this stuff is available on the grey market affordably and below retail. Something like this, which is a Patek Philippe Calatrava 5224R travel time, this has a retail price of about $104,000, and we have it available for almost $40,000 below retail. So if this is the dream watch for you, why would you go and spend the full sticker price at Patek Philippe when you can save yourself $40,000 and just buy it grey? Something else to consider is that it often takes a very long time to build these relationships. And within that time span, certain pieces move in and out of the Patek catalogue every year. One of my favourite timepieces was the Patek Philippe Nautilus, the 5712 with the moon phase. If you're building that relationship and building that spend to achieve that timepiece in steel, well, you'd be building, buying, but then the watch gets discontinued. At that point, you can no longer buy it from Patek. And sure enough, you could buy something else, some other Nautilus, some other Aquanaut, but if that's what your heart's set on, you're pretty stuffed. And then you have to turn to the grey market anyway. The good thing about the grey market is that you could buy anything from the history of Patek's production up till now, and it doesn't matter if it's discontinued or not, because it's still achievable. So you're not kind of building this spend towards something that was never going to happen. So in summary, buying a Patek Philippe at retail is not impossible, but it takes a lot of time. You'll be a lot older when you get it. It's going to hit your back pocket, and you might not get exactly what you want. But obviously the pros are that you have that relationship and you might get that piece that you want at retail, even though maybe you lose a little bit on some others. If you're like me and you have given up the Patek retail game and you just want to buy what you like, well, then the grey market is the way to go. And if you change your mind and you want to move into something else, well, you can just sell it back and buy something else. And that is the beauty, the flexibility, and the efficiency of buying on the grey market. So if you are looking to buy or sell a Patek Philippe timepiece, do reach out because we'd love to help you.